In this activity, we will be learning about more than type and less than type ogives. The ogives are also called cumulative frequency curves. So the objective of this activity is to draw a cumulative frequency curve or an ogive for more than type data and for less than type data. Let's see the concept in hand. The ogives or the cumulative frequency curves are divided into two parts. One is when you have cumulative frequency given to you in the form of more than type. That means the data is like more than 100, more than 200, more than 300. The interval, the class size may differ. It may be more than 10, more than 20, more than 30, depending on the data. Or it can be less than type data, like less than 100, less than 90, less than 80, and so on. So when you are given these two different types of data, we can represent this data graphically using ogives or the cumulative frequency curves. When you plot the data given in more than type form on a sheet of paper, the graph moves from top to bottom like this. And when you plot a less than type data on a graph sheet, the graph moves from bottom to top like this. The same we will be performing, and we will be obtaining the two types of ogives. The material required for this activity is obviously graph papers, because we'll be plotting the graph for both types of data. Geometry kit, because we'll be requiring all the instruments to plot the graph, and then pair of scissors to make cutouts of the sheets, and then fevistick or glue stick to paste those sheets of papers. Let's see how this activity is performed now.
For drawing the more than type ogive, first of all, we will collect the data regarding the weights of the students of your class. They may be 40 students or 45 students depending on the strength. And then we divide the weights into suitable class intervals. Like it can be 30 to 40, 40 to 50, 50 to 60, 60 to 70, 70 to 80. And we count how many students lie in a particular class interval. So I have taken some random class intervals here: A to B, B to C, C to D, D to E, and E to F. And we have named the frequencies as F1, F2, F3, F4, and F5. To plot the more than type ogive, first of all we draw the Cartesian plane, and on the x-axis we denote these values A, B, C, D, E, F like this at equal intervals, and on the y-axis we take the frequencies, but that selection of the scale depends on the range here. So if there are 3 students here and there are 25 students here, then you need to select an appropriate scale like 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, and so on. After that, for plotting the more than type ogive, we take the lower limit of the first class interval, that is A, and corresponding to that we find the sum of all the frequencies. So corresponding to A, the point on the y-axis will be the one obtained by adding all the frequencies. So it will be above like this. So corresponding to A, we obtain 1 point here. And then the lower limit of the second class interval B, you have to add all the succeeding frequencies like F2, F3, F4, F5, and then plot it here. So it will be lower than this because F1 is eliminated in the second one. Likewise, in the third one, we take the lower limit C and then add F3, F4, and F5. So that point will be still lower than the second point. Likewise, the lower limit D and then F4 plus F5. So corresponding to D, F4 plus F5 value will be plotted here, and then corresponding to E, it is only F5, so that will be the lowermost point. After obtaining all the 5 points, we join them using a smooth curve. Mind you, this has to be drawn freehand and not using scale. This graph obtained is known as more than type ogive. Now let's have a look at less than type ogive. I have taken the same table which you obtained by collecting the data, but for plotting the less than type ogive, the graph will be plotted in a different manner. We took the lower limit in more than type ogive. Now we will be taking the upper limit. So the first class interval a to b has upper class limit b, and corresponding to b you will be plotting f1, that is the smallest value here, and you will obtain a point very close to x-axis. Then the upper limit of the second class interval c, and corresponding to that you will be plotting f1 plus f2, that is these two, and you will get a point above the first one. Corresponding to the upper limit of the third class interval d, you will add f1, f2, f3 and then plot it. Likewise, for e you will get a point above this, and for f you will get a point above this. All the 5 points which you obtained will be again joined using a smooth curve and not using scales. This curve obtained is known as a less than type ogive, and that completes our activity of more than and less than type ogive.